Go ahead. I'm all ears.
Got you. Sounds good. All right. So for my first question is, um, what led to you becoming a member of law enforcement?
You want the? I'm gonna give you the truth answer.
Okay. Cool.
I became a teen mom at the age of 17. I had my
Okay.
daughter at 18, and I didn't go back to school right away. So I took a year off. I only needed about 6 high school credits to graduate,
Okay.
and I finally went back, and I ended up getting a scholarship from Chase Bank. So I couldn't go to college right away because I had to work.
Right.
Uh, and I remember having a judge in my as one of the speakers in my high school graduation. I graduated from Roosevelt High School on Fordham Road.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he saying, when one door closes, another one opens. And at that point, they had announced the New York City Police Department tests. I wanted to go into law. That's what I took in high school. Criminal law was part of the program. I was
Cool.
doing a lot of things. I wanted to go to the military, and unfortunately, I was unable to do so because I had a young child,
Right.
single mother. And so I had officers that used to go into my mother's restaurant. It was actually first my grandfather's,
Okay.
and Hunts Point, which is in the confine of the 4-1. And they actually walked the application to me.
Wow.
I filled it up, and they came to a few weeks later. They were like, "Did you submit your application?" And I go, "No, I haven't." And the deadline was that day.
Wow.
It had to be stamped and dated that day in order for you to be considered to take the test.
Okay.
So I had an officer by the name of Torres, Inabel Torres, who picked up my application, took my mother to the post office on 149 Grand Concourse because it was the only post office open till late.
Okay.
And they submitted. Now, I took the test. Unfortunately, I didn't join the police department right away because you need an associate's degree. You need 60 credits to join the police department.
Okay.
And I still have not attended college. Finally, I took the test again, and I joined the police department because I needed something stable and to provide for my daughter.
Right.
You'd be like, well, such a dangerous job. Did you think about it? I was like, no, I think it was more of a calling. And there's a saying, I believe this, you don't pick to be an officer, the job kind of picks you.
Right. Okay.
I choose to believe that. I consider myself a very special person. So I like to believe that the job picked me. So I joined the police department January 7th of 2008. So I have 14 years already on the job. That's the reason I needed to provide for my daughter. I was a young mother, and I needed something stable with benefits
Right.
and insurance to make sure that my daughter had a more stable, I guess, life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that I came from unstable, but my mother did work 2-3 jobs to support for her family, and she was a hard worker. And I was like, you know what? I want to be able to work hard, but not be able to work 2-3 jobs in order to provide for my child.
Right. You want to work hard and not smart.
Yes, exactly. So nobody joins this job for the money. And that's how it started. That's my story.
Cool. Cool. And it also sounds like it's not like you wanted to be a police officer, but it sounds like you needed to be a police officer based off like the signs you were getting and the type of person you were, and then also your financial situation with your
Yes.
daughter.
Yes, definitely. As like I said, you don't get on this job for the salary
Right.
or to be rich, but you do get it because it's something stable, and the only way to lose this job is if you do something stupid and illegal,
Right.
And I wasn't about neither of those two things.
Right. Right. Gotcha. Okay. So the next question I wanted to ask you. So you say you started in January 2008. What jobs within the police force or within law enforcement have you worked prior to your current position?
So I did 6 months in the police academy.
Okay.
Graduated July of 2008, and went to one of the busiest precinct, which was the 44th Precinct.
Okay.
located over at Jerome and 169. And I did almost a year of training on foot. So that's all we did. We were foot officers. Did almost a year of that, which is called Impact. If you have a chance, look up what NYPD Operation Impact was.
Okay.
And so I did a year of that, and after a year of training, I got transferred to, long and behold, the neighborhood that I grew up in, the 41st Precinct.
Wow.
Yes. So in 09, May of 2009, I got transferred to the 41st Precinct, and I did almost 5 years of patrol.
Okay.
Which is the police car, answering 911 jobs and arresting and enforcing quality of life issues. So I did close to 5 years of patrol in the 41.
Okay.
And then I was given the honor of becoming the domestic violence officer.
Oh, wow.
In the
That's
41 Precinct, yes.
Wow.
Which is self-reward. I wouldn't say self-rewarding, but it takes a very compassionate officer to kind of do that job. You don't deal just with domestic violence victims. You deal with child abuse. You deal with elderly abuse. You it's just a lot of you deal with custody, ACS, not just women being victim of domestic violence, but we also had a large population of male that were victims of domestic violence who never wanted to report their crime. And unfortunately, you deal with also a lot of illegal, undocumented. I like to use undocumented because I don't think nobody is illegal. Undocumented population who are afraid to report domestic violence. It's very difficult not to get attached emotionally to the survivors, not even victims, the survivors of this type of abuse. So I did 4 years, a little bit over 4 years of domestic violence in the confinement of the 41st Precinct.
Okay. And then after you did the 4 years, now you're in a position that you're in now.
I am the 41st Precinct, and now I'm the community affair officer. Yes.
Community affair officer, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. I just want to make sure I heard that right. All right, cool. Wow, that was a crazy story. I think it's a perfect segue to my next question. I'm doing some research because I lived in the vicinity of the 41st Precinct for 9 years of my life. I lived no Longwood and Fox, so every time I walk to the 6th train, I'll see the precinct, right? What's it like? And then I did some research a couple months back that I moved there in 2009, I think.
Okay.
And I saw like a census or some survey that said that out of 64 neighborhoods in New York City, the 41st Precinct was the 63rd most dangerous. So with that being said, I wanted to ask you, what has it been like working in the 41st Precinct for more than I'm assuming almost a decade now, or more than a decade?
A little over a decade, yes.
Right. So what's it like just working in the Longwood, Hunts Point area of the Bronx?
Everybody focus in the crime in this neighborhood, and they talk about all the negative. It's unfortunate that that's what this community and this precinct is known for.
Yeah.
My goal has always been to kind of change that narrative around that story, because I honestly believe there's a lot more good that doesn't get reported than there is bad. Violence and crime is always going to exist.
Right.
It's never going to go away. And I definitely have seen an improvement in this community, not just with, the building of new housing and finally spot for juvenile detention no longer exists. It's becoming this beautiful building.
I've seen that.
Yes. But also within the precinct and the people in the community.
Okay.
The 1% of the people that make it difficult to live in this community are the loudest, and those are the ones that get the most attention.
Okay.
The large percentage of this community are too busy working and trying to provide for their family.
That's true.
I know people who have worked 2-3 jobs, who work in the produce market, who work in the meat market, work in the fish market, and try to provide for their family. The fish market opens at midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning, and you see those people walking from this community over to the market to work. And then you have the produce market that opens at 10 o'clock in the morning and it closes at 9 o'clock in the morning. So there's a lot more of that, of people just trying to make a living, trying to support their family. This is also one of the poorest, I believe, community in the Bronx or in the nation, from what I read in the past. Now, I'm going to tell you from what I did see before I became an officer to what I see now. Hunts Point was burned down. There was no buildings in the Hunts Point, the 800 block, starting from Seneca to Lafayette.
Wow.
Post office didn't exist. The post office did not exist.
Wow.
It was an empty lot full of crack pipes and needles and glass and rock and stone and dog poop everywhere. I know, because I lived in Oneida, and and that was the short way of crossing over to my grandfather's restaurant in Hunts Point.
Wow.
So, yes. So to see the neighborhood change little by little has been phenomenal. It's been great. And it just shows that there's a lot more improvement to be made. But to say that this community has not improved since then is, it's an understatement. And we have come a long way.
No, you're right. Wow. That was a great answer. No, you're right. Because I remember, I resonate with when you said the partnership between the police and the community, because I remember when I lived there, every year in August we would have like block parties held by the police athletic league and the police, and we would be on Longwood Avenue. We would have games and we would have snacks and stuff, and that used to be like the highlight of the summer. And then I moved from the 41st Precinct in 2018, and I have yet to have an experience like that in any other neighborhood. And then I also know about the history, of that neighborhood, like the Bronx is burning and stuff like that. And then I know that especially the building that I lived in, it was not there like 10 years prior. So it's like, imagine what the whole neighborhood looked like with all these new buildings 10 years prior. Like, it was like a ghost town. So like, I definitely agree with you that there's been a lot of improvement in the community.
Yes. Sometimes I hear outside people, let's call them outside people, who are not part of this way of living an environment. We saw it. We grew up in it. I lived everywhere, all over the Bronx, but my attachment to Hunts Point is a lot. It's a lot more because of my family's business. My grandfather and my mother had 2 restaurants, a coffee shop and a restaurant in Hunts Point.
Okay.
And I lived above the restaurant for a couple of years after I had my daughter. And then, but everywhere, there's crime everywhere in the Bronx, right? And unfortunately, the focus has always been Hunts Point. The HBO special of, the prostitution didn't help. I wish HBO will come back and do an update story of the improvement that we have, that has taken place since then. But that won't sell, right? That won't get views.
Yeah, you're right.
So let's focus on that, about why they only, they only put that kind of information out, but they don't put the information of the transition that has happened in the last, let's say, 10 years. Right.
It's like they only want to talk about the bad. Why not talk about the good? Like, I like, the Hunts Point has got so much better.
Yes, absolutely. I honestly, everything everywhere needs improvement. We're not just going to call out that, Hunts Point is the only community that needs improvement. There's a sprinkle in every precinct and every community that has seen their share of crime that needs as much improvement as the Hunts Point community does.
Right. No, you're right.
We're also talking about a community that their annual salary is maybe $15,000 to $22,000 a year.
Wow.
So we have family living below poverty level.
Gotcha. Okay, so let me get to my next question. So January 18th was the day of the unfortunate tragedy where there was a gas explosion on Fox Street between Tiffany and Interville. What was going through your mind on that day when you caught wave of what was going on with the explosion? Like, what was going through your mind when you first heard what happened, and when you first saw the video, or when you first touched down to the scene?
So I was actually in the precinct, and I didn't have my radio on me because I was helping a young school crossing guard with some family issue.
Okay.
So I wasn't aware because I want to give this person my undivided attention. So I was talking to him, and all of a sudden I hear a lot of commotion. And I heard something, but I was like, I thought it was construction, we're right on the Bruckner.
Right.
So I thought it was something to do with that. So then my cell phone, my one of my partners starts calling me, and she was actually doing station house in the precinct.
Okay.
And I couldn't answer because I had left my cell phone behind, and I could see her calling me from my Apple Watch.
Okay.
So finally, I walk into the one of the officers tells me, Socola, I think you should see this. And I already have been dealing with the fire in the confine of the 46th Precinct, where, unfortunately we had 17 people that passed away,
yeah,
including children. So I was already helping with that fire in different precincts, because community affairs, wherever there is something like that happens, every community affairs from every precinct in the Bronx, it's all hands on deck. We all help each other.
Okay.
So I was already dealing with that fire, and I was supposed to go back to Monroe College to help out the victims, to continue helping the victims, making sure that they were getting the service, making sure that they didn't need food and things like that. So she was like, I think you should see this. We have a fire explosion on Fox. I was like, wow. So I look out and I see the smoke. So I don't even have my uniform on. I'm throwing on my uniform fast. I'm calling my partner. I was like, I saw it. I'm on my way. She's already at the scene without me. And finally, I run out. I get in the car, not realizing I could have just walk over. But you're like, your goal is to get there as soon as possible.
Okay.
So I got there, and all I see is smoke everywhere. And we have people who are trying to fight with us because they're trying to get into the location with the fire. We're trying to move them back, saying, listen, you don't want to breathe this. We don't know what this is. Right. And they're cursing at us, and, calling us all kind of names and recording us. And I was like, let them be. If they want to inhale this, let them inhale it. I'm not going to stay here and fight with anybody. We understand. We have other people to help. Okay. So finally, we're able to establish a scene and put some crime scene tape, and the people finally got the message that they need to back away.
Okay.
So from there, I was like, well, where are the victims? We need to find the victims. And some of them are inside the laundromat on Interval. Some of them are inside a grocery store. And finally, Father Rivas from St. Athanasius Church, he calls me and he goes, come into the church. And we were able to get as much victim to inside the church as we can. Right. Now, these are the people we accounted for. Now we don't know who's missing. We don't know what houses are affected. We don't know anything. We're still trying to figure it out. Okay. So my lieutenant, my community affairs lieutenant, Lieutenant Perez, from community affairs from the Patrol Borough Bronx, we don't have pen, we don't have paper, we don't have anything. And she finds one piece of paper, and she gets a pencil from the church where you write, the amount of money you're donating in the envelope. And she does this graph of every, Fox, Interval, Tiffany, and she starts writing down every house number. And she starts with the one where the explosion happened and worked herself. And there we start taking victims' information. What house you live? Okay, you live. So we start writing. Okay. We did a picture with the house. Okay, you live in 865. Okay, that person's name. And then we move on until we realize, okay, who's missing? And we realize we were missing a mother and a child. Okay. And our hearts drop.
Yeah, because
we did find the mother and the child. Her mother-in-law happened to live across the street from where the explosion happened, and she grabbed her child and she ran across the street with her child. So we were able to locate that. If I tell you I didn't get emotional knowing that she was okay with her child, I'd be lying to you. Obviously, I was extremely emotional because you start thinking of the worst. I was like, are they under these covers? Are they inside? What's going on? So we located. Unfortunately, we did have a elderly lady that passed away in the building that exploded, and we had a few others that went to the hospital with, they're okay, and we had a elderly that ended up going to Lincoln Hospital, and she's currently in rehab. We actually went to see her yesterday and surprised her with some flowers to lift up her spirits. Yes. So she's doing well. She's recovering and she's doing well. So to answer your question, I think there's a lot of emotions going on, and your priority is not you, is locating the victims and providing services. So we waited for Red Cross to get there. We were there till like 10 o'clock at night in the church. And I thank Father Rivas for allowing us to be there that late. They even did mass with us in the back of the church.
Wow, that's so nice.
Yes.
Making the best of a terrible situation.
Absolutely. And what better place in the house of God, right?
Right, definitely. In the heart, no, that's beautiful. Gotcha. Okay, so I have two more questions, and then I'll let you go. In your opinion, what do you think can be done to prevent a tragedy like this from happening again? And when I ask that, I mean, what role can us as a community, so I'm talking about the tenants, probably that live in the community, their neighbors, the landlords, the authorities in terms of law enforcement, council members. In your opinion, what do you think, what role can we play to prevent something like this from happening again?
Fire education.
Okay.
Education is key, especially for our seniors. A lot of our elderlies are home alone. Some of them don't have home attendants. Some of them like to be independent and not rely on other people to take care of them. So our focus should always be education. I think Medicine has to do, this is my opinion, for the amount of money that they charge for services, they should have an outreach education section to provide education to not just our elderly, but for everyone. And I think that's key right there. Fire department, they do an excellent job. They do have an outreach that goes out there that provides free alarms for carbon monoxide and fire alarm and smoke alarm. And maybe having more of those resources as well will help to prevent for something like this from happening again.
No, I definitely do agree with that. Like, especially with Con Edison, it doesn't seem like something too difficult to implement. Like, they could implement like fire education for everybody in the household and like what to do in certain events. Because I remember growing up, like when I lived in the 41st Precinct, I remember my mom, she would have to work long hours and stuff. So we would be home alone a lot. And she always used to tell us, if you smell gas, run out the house. And I would be like, I wonder, like, I was young, so I was like, I wonder why she's telling me this, or like, what does gas smell like, or do I really have to run out, or is she just trying to make me scared? Like,
do you know what gas smell like?
Yeah, I know what it smells like now. And I know it usually comes from the oven.
Describe like rotten eggs.
It smells like rotten eggs, or how I remember it, like the gas that you get at the gas station. I think I remember she used to scream at us because we would leave the oven on, but like there would be no fire coming out. I think so. I think that creates gas. I remember that.
Yep. That's another way, but yes. I think educational outreach is important.
Right.
Especially location. The Bronx, I think, leads in fire.
That's unfortunate.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I think with that being said, that concludes the interview. And since this is going on YouTube, do you have anything that you want to say to the people?
Actually, I want to say in regards to the video, because I didn't even get to answer that question. I got too involved with just helping the victims.
Okay.
The bodywork camera that you see is actually my commanding officer running in to help the other 4 officers that are inside the house trying to locate this elderly lady. That, honestly, from what I was told yesterday, the sofa on top of her, saved her life.
Wow.
So from her getting more further injuries. Those 4 officers that ran in, and then my commanding officer, Captain Marcia, running in as well. We were able to see how we don't think about our safety. We always think about the safety of others.
Right.
It's after they ran in and they realized that the house started collapsing. It was like we were just in there.
Yeah, it's like 24/7. You have to literally sacrifice your life for others.
Yes, and everybody was like, "Well, that's the job you took, right? You're supposed to do that. That's part of your job." We took a job to protect.
Yeah, right.
To protect. Nobody takes a job thinking you may not go home the next day.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure to live with.
It is. But you never want to be the person that didn't do your best to try to save somebody else's, even if that means risking your own life to protect somebody else.
Right. And it's crazy because it's a story for another day. So we definitely have to do a part 2 of this. But it's like, like there's a lot of like we could highlight like the 1% that you said at the beginning that makes life more difficult for the rest of the residents of the community. How they just feel like you guys are in the community to do anything other than protect, like to push around or to exert your authority in a way that they disagree with, when you're really just there to keep order and protect. I don't know, it's weird. It's like it's really a double-edged sword. Like
Andy, I'm gonna tell you something. No profession is perfect.
Right.
We do have and just like any profession, we do have officers that make bad decisions.
Right.
Okay, and unfortunately, those bad decisions are the one that always seem to reflect all of us. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
This department has improved a lot when it comes to relation with the community, and we understand that. And I only have 14 years on this job, and I understand that mistakes have been done, right? This job by this department, but so has every other job, and that's why it's very important to have an open mind and listen, not let our personal emotion, because I know that when they're screaming at me saying that I'm a pig and I'm a racist and things like that, they're not saying it at me. You're saying it at the uniform.
No, you're right.
And it's not a reflection. So I know who I am, and I know where I came from, and I know the reason why I took this job. Okay, was to provide for my daughter. And to answer your question, I got on this job to provide for my daughter so she could have a stable life.
Right.
But this job changed the reason why I joined. You understand? I love doing what I do. I love working with the community. I love and enjoy bridging that gap between the community and the police department. And that has become my purpose, trying to give back and trying to change that negative into a positive and bring more light to the good that this department and a lot of the officers on this job took the job for. And it's to serve the community they grew up in and to make a difference. And if I could change the mind of one person, I consider that a success.
Right. Because that could end up trickling down. No, you're right. Wow.
Yes.
I think a good way to end this interview would be, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Well, I have 6 more years to go to retire.
Oh, cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. 6 more years to go. And as of now, I'm hoping, I don't know if in 6 years I'll be retiring, but as of now, the community has me for another 6 years for now, and hopefully for another for a lot longer if God permits.
Right. Oh, cool. Sounds good. All right, so hopefully we can see you in the community more, protecting the people that live in it, as you've done already.
No problem. Thank you, Andy. It's been a great pleasure speaking with you. Good luck on your paper, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need anything.
All right.
Okay, cuídate, okay?
I will. I understand. All right. Thank you so much, and you have a good
All
one.
right.